Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janvala Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janvala Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari We are reading from So we'll say the invocation prayers, call and response. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 4. We're at text 4. So maybe we can take turns to read the translation of the verses, please.
The Lord is a vanquisher of the distresses of one who surrendered unto him. Thus he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrikashram.
Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama or Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the Master.
Who is the I here? Who's speaking?
Uddhava.
Is it Uddhava? Or is it Maitreya?
Are you asking?
Is this your question?
Sorry, no, it's not. I thought it was Maitreya. Because isn't it the conversation happening between Maitreya and Vidura? Or is this happening between Vidura and Uddhava?
Oh, it's talking to the
Yeah.
Right. So who's talking to Vidura?
Maitreya?
That's what I thought. Oh, okay, what do I know?
Yeah, it's my trail.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Thanks,
so it's conversation that's happening between Maitreya and Vidura, right? So as you can see, the title of the chapter is Vidura approaches Maitreya, right? So the I in here is Maitreya, and then we will hear the past time where Uddhava will come in. So it can be a little confusing. That's why I wanted to kind of highlight that. Please continue.
Next text. Thus following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Sarasvati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune.
The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments.
The Lord was sitting, taking rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus leg on his left thigh. And although he left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture.
At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna, Devayapayana Vyasa, reached the spot out of his own perfect accord.
Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows.
Oh, Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desire in the days of yore when the found Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universe affairs perform sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I ward it unto you.
O honest one, your present life is the last and supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode by Kunta, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you.
O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam.
Stop here. So we'll read the text 11 and the purport of 11, please. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antar Manishipistam Te Dadami Yatta Duravapamanye Satre Pura Vishvasha Jamvasuna Matsiddhi Kame Navaso Tvaishta Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antar Manasi Pistam Te Dadami Yatta Durvapam Anye Satre Pura Vishvasha Jamvasunam Matsiddhi Kame Navaso Tvaishtaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antar Manasi Pistam Te Dadami Yatta Duravapamanye Satre Pura Vishvasha Jamvasunam Matsiddhi Kame Navaso Tvaishtaha Would anyone else like to chant, please?
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Vedamantar Manisi Pistam Te Dadami Yatta Duravapamanye Satre Pura Vishvasujam Vasunam Matsiddhi Kame Navaso Tvaishtaha
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antar Manisi Pistam Te Tadami yatadvapam pamanyet. Satre pura vishvasmitlam vasunam. Matsidigame navasotvayesta. Anyone else? Right.
Oh my God.
We can hear them chanting.
I think I know they're listening.
But there's some emergency cut that happened.
I heard.
Maybe a little distracting.
No, it's fine. It's so fine. All right, let's chant word to word together, please, or word to word translation, please. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the personality of God had said, Veda, no, Aham, I, Antaha, within, Manasi, the mind, Ipistam, what you desired, Te, your, Dadami, I give you, Yat, which is, Tat, that, Vapam, very difficult to achieve, Anye, by others, Satre, in the sacrifice, Pura, in the days of yore, Vishvashrujam, of those who expanded this creation, Vasunam, of the Vasus, Mat Siddhi Kamena, with a desire to achieve my association. Vaso, O Vasu, Tvaya, by you, Istaha, ultimate goal of life. Translation. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of yore. The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals in life. At that time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because he is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the superconsciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the superconsciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity, as partial consciousness, forgets incidents of his past life, but the superconsciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tatveva bhajami aham. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Sarvasya chaham hridis sanivisto mat taha smritir jnanam apohantam cha. Apohanam cha. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man proposes, God disposes. Man proposes, God disposes. In the days of yore, when the demigods and the Vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava, as one of the Vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult. For those busy in empiric philosophical speculation or fruitive activities, Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. Right. Let's read the translation one more time together, please. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. So it's a wonderful pastime of Uddhava being present with Krishna when Krishna is wrapping his pastimes and going back to the spiritual world. And we see how Uddhava, who is there and had this spiritual desire to be in association of Krishna, and Krishna fulfills that desire. And then Maitreya, who's another wonderful devotee, is fortunate enough to be there and be able to hear that conversation, right? And we are really fortunate to be able to have this written and translated by Srila Prabhupada, to be able to read and understand that here in Gainesville, right? And thousands of years later. So I wanted to start by putting up this question of what do you think is the difference between karma yoga and bhakti yoga?
Well, karma yoga is mostly associated with actual actions of like body, speech, mind, like actually like things we're doing. Whether, and I know it's supposed to be like, surrendering that idea of doership, right? And then bhakti being more like just straight up pure like love and devotion. Like everything becomes an act. Everything we do is an act of devotion. So maybe they kind of blend together at some point there. But.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
I think Karma Yoga may be related to the things the person who done in the past life and what are things he can do so that in the future he can negate those things by doing the good deeds. That's what I'm thinking. And Bhakti Yoga is more related to the immersing in yourself into the God and doing like service to the God daily.
Okay. Yes.
Maybe like karma yoga is more like, I don't know, like for some results, whereas like bhakti is really for like Krishna, we're not really expecting like a result really, just to, revive that relationship with Krishna.
Okay. Yeah, you're getting there. Yes.
I don't remember where I read this, but I'm pretty sure Prabhupada said a few times that it was the same thing. Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. I think it's in the Bhagavad Gita purports. But we obviously know that there's like Karma Yoga that like is only like ritualistic. But then he was also calling Bhakti Yoga Karma Yoga, and I think it was with this like intention behind it, which is different. Not for the
like people have already said, like results of the activities, but just as, dovetailing to Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
I'm getting a thought maybe that, right, with karma yoga, technically you could do it without a sense of love or devotion, just by letting go and then just being like, I'm not the doer and everything's happening all by itself and I can just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't require devotion.
Yeah.
It's just letting go. And then when you add that sense of all of this is for the love of Krishna or however, then that becomes more like bhakti.
Yeah. Anyone else? So in in chapter 12, Krishna tells all these different ways that one can approach Krishna or get closer to Krishna and things we can do, right? So starting by karma yoga, right, which is Krishna says if try to do your actions and then offer the results to me. But if you cannot do that, then be detached from the results, right? So that's kind of the understanding that I had of the karma yoga, right? And then in bhakti yoga, you're actually, as some of you very rightly said, is you're performing those actions with love and devotion, trying to revive that relationship with Krishna. And what's that relationship? It's the relationship of service, right? So that was kind of my understanding as well. Until recently, I heard in this lecture, and I thought that was a really powerful discrimination between the two. And what the speaker said was the difference between the karma yoga and the bhakti yoga is in karma yoga, we're performing the actions as per our desire, right? So like I want to write for Krishna, or I want to cook for Krishna, or I want to be a student for Krishna, right? Those desires are coming from our heart and we are trying to dovetail them in service for Krishna. But in Bhakti Yoga, we are trying to fulfill the desires of other senior Vaishnavas, other senior devotees, and fulfilling those desires to serve them, and through them we serve Krishna, right? And that's what we see in the examples of our lineage, Srila Prabhupada, his guru, and so on and so forth. Right? So that's the key difference is in Bhakti Yoga, we're trying to not serve Krishna through our desires per se, but like trying to inquire and from senior devotees, from our teachers, from our mentors, from our spiritual master to what can we do to serve them and serve Krishna in that way. And through that, we're able to establish the mood of surrender and service and are able to serve Krishna in that way. So when you have and that doesn't mean that we ourselves don't have desires or we don't have certain propensities and we don't serve Krishna in that propensities. But the point is to be able to always inquire and always try to serve where there's a need, right? So the big difference is, especially in the world we live today, right? It's like there's an overemphasis on creativity, individuality, kind of like doing that, like thinking of it and kind of doing it ourselves, rather than trying to be, if I could say, like try to be more surrendered or trying to inquire from others and our guides and our mentors to be able to serve in that way. Because the beauty of being able to do that is when that desire comes from another devotee, another Vaishnav, then the power to be able to fulfill that desire or to serve comes with it too, which may or may not happen when that desire is coming from within, right? So we hear these beautiful stories of the first generation of early disciples of Srila Prabhupada, right? And how they were able to do these amazing things, right? Like go meet the Beatles, get them to record kirtan and music for Krishna, George Harrison to be able to donate money for the Krishna book, right? Like all these miracles are happening throughout all these times, right? And the reason they're happening is because they're trying to fulfill the desire of a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, right? They had their own desires at times too. You like in the beginning when if any one of you have read the book The Miracles of Second Avenue, I highly recommend it. It's kind of a smaller version of like all the beautiful earlier pastimes written by His Holiness Mukunda Goswami Maharaj, and he's telling how when they first get initiated, they had the desire to go to India and then practice spirituality in India. And then, they hear that actually Prabhupada had the desire to open another center in the West, right? So at the time they were in New York, and Prabhupada had the desire to actually spread Krishna consciousness throughout America, and doing that in the West would have been wonderful. And so somehow they're able to take that and, be able to go to the West Coast, and, magic just happens from there on, right? And so, but when we do that, then, the power comes with it, because we're trying to now fulfill the desires of the devotees of the Lord. But that doesn't mean that it will be easy, right? It's not that it will be now like, path of roses and rainbows, because it's like, all right, we're so surrendered. We're not, trying to do this for me. I'm not trying to do this for myself. I'm trying to do this for another devotee, right? So, and we see that in all these wonderful pastimes that we read in Bhagavatam, right? It wasn't easy for the Pandavas. It wasn't easy for Bhishma Dev, Queen Kunti, Maharaj Parikshit. Like, you can go story after story in the Bhagavatam, and you can see like how all these surrendered souls, but they're trying to fulfill the will of Krishna or other devotees, and how it's not easy, right? And so just because we're trying to then have the spiritual desire in our heart of fulfilling this, not only like basically making the desire of a spiritual desire of our mentors, our spiritual master as our own desire, and trying to fulfill that. And the empowerment will definitely come with it, but as I said, it won't be easy, right? And we see that in life of Srila Prabhupada, right? So I was actually thinking about this. If you actually really think about the first meeting of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada, the first time they meet, right? It's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells Srila Prabhupada that, you have wonderful English, you should try to take Lord Chaitanya's mission and preach it in the West, right? And so we hear it from Srila Prabhupada, and he says, I got that instruction the first time I met my spiritual master. And the way he explains it is he gets that instruction. But if you didn't know, Srila Prabhupada, and if you didn't know the whole thing, and if you were just kind of reading that conversation, it can easily come across as like he met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada and he suggested that he should preach in the West, right? Preach in the West, right? It's not an instruction, but it's kind of a suggestion, right? Like, hey, if you have wonderful English, why don't you do that, right? But Srila Prabhupada saw it as an instruction and made it his life's mission to be able to do that. And because he did that, the empowerment came with it, right? To where we see what Prabhupada was able to do. Right? And we see this same example with Prabhupada's disciples, the first generation, how they're able to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world and are able to do these wonderful things because they're trying to serve Srila Prabhupada. So it is wonderful to have spiritual desires, but it's even more wonderful to inquire our seniors of their spiritual desires and make them our desires or our missions and see how we can serve that. Because we know with that, the guaranteed empowerment will come. But when the path would not be easy, right? Then at that time, it's really easy to quit or to get upset at Krishna or to get upset actually at that devotee for giving that instruction, right? It's like, oh, my life was easy and blissful, and why did I actually went and asked, and now here I am, and right. And so again, we see in the life of the Pandavas. So how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hand, but it's just like for yourself too, how many of you has this happened where when we were going through something really difficult or something really turbulent or something really challenging, asking in front of the deities or in our heart, like, why Krishna, why now, or like, why with me, right? Like how many times that would happen, right? But we hear the story of the Pandavas. They go through so many turbulent, and Krishna is right there sitting in front of them. How easy is it for them to ask, like, Krishna, why, right? Like Krishna is sitting right in front of them, and how many times do they ask Krishna why? Not even once, right? And that's not the mood, right? They're trying to serve the will of Krishna and desire of Krishna in best of their abilities. So and so that's why a lot of times it will, again, I don't know if it has happened to one of you or not, but I can share from my personal example. Like a lot of times when you'll ask a senior devotee, what can I do for you? What can I do for Krishna? A lot of times the response would be like, whatever you want to do, right? And the reason they would say that is because, that's been like my recent realization is the reason they would say that is because they don't want you to be like, if I tell something and he's not able to fulfill it or he's not able to do it, like then, you being either, and we have seen these extreme examples where the devotees will leave the movement or the devotees will get angry towards other senior devotees, or they'll take it personally in so many examples. So if we really want to be able to do that, and we have to first really sincerely pray to Krishna to give us the strength to be able to do that, because it's not going to be easy. And then when we feel really ready from within our heart to be able to do it, then really approaching and asking our mentors for that. And then when the mentor says, no, it's like, no, I really want you to and then, the mentors are really intelligent. So, they don't waste their instructions. So, they won't tell you until they feel you're prepared. And when you really kind of push for it, they'll give you something small and then see if you can do it, and then you're able to do something small, then, that way you can kind of grow. And then with those instructions, the empowerment will come and realizations will come, and those spiritual desires will help us get closer to Krishna so much more. And that's really that's really the purpose of Bhakti Yoga, right? That's really why we are here, is to build that relationship with Krishna. And if you think of it, what we are asking for is to develop love, or reignite love for Krishna. It's the highest thing that you can ask for in whole Krishna's creation, right? And so if you're trying to get something that's highest in whole Krishna's creation, what would be the price for it, right? Like we read these stories of like these multi-billionaires in this material world and all the turbulence and things they go through to make like $1 billion, right? Like that's just like $1 billion, right? And here we are asking for something that's way beyond that. So it's not going to come cheap, right? And if we are thinking that it's going to come at a cheap price, we're fooling ourselves, right? So it's the highest thing that we're going for, and so it's not going to come cheap. There'll be challenges throughout, and again, like we can read and see from the examples of these wonderful devotees, including Srila Prabhupada, right? Like Prabhupada wasn't trying to do anything for himself. If he wanted to, if he wanted to do it for himself, he had a really wonderful life in Vrindavan that he could have retired and stayed in Vrindavan and continued to do his devotional service in Vrindavan, right? Like that's a lot of that would be like a dream kind of retirement for a lot of the devotees right now, right? And that's not what Prabhupada chose. And because his spiritual desire was, what was the desire of his spiritual master, was to spread Krishna consciousness throughout West, right? And we see like for years it doesn't happen, and so he has to continue to try different things. He has, Krishna keeps on sending hard things one after the other, but he just persists, right? And so the last thing I want to share is, we have our timelines, and Krishna has his timelines. So just because we have desire and just because we try to do it doesn't mean it's just going to manifest tomorrow, right? Or a year, or like in the purport we read, what was that, your time, right? So I was like, what's your, like Googling it, right? And it's like a long time ago. So like like ages ago was when Uddhava desired it, right? And now it happens where Uddhava is, lifetimes after lifetimes, who knows, like ages after ages is when like it's happening, right? So we have our timelines, and then Krishna has his timelines. And again, when we're going for the most precious thing, we have to be patient because it's going to take time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over weeks, months, or years. It'll take decades, right? Or who knows, even longer, right? Based on our surrender, and really based on our surrender and our service attitude, that's really, in our sincerity is what will kind of define that timeline. And then also Krishna's mercy, and there's no timeline on Krishna's mercy, and that can happen at any point. So be patient, right? And again, like who knows here who wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita? How old was he when he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita? He was in his 90s, right? When he wrote that. So again, he did that because like that was the desire of the devotees around him, was for him to be able to write for Chaitanya's Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, especially like during sannyas and his time in Puri, that were really not were unknown, right? So he took that spiritual desire as his, because that was the desire of the devotees around him, and he was able to accomplish that at the age of 90s because he made that his own desire, right? So I want to kind of leave by that, is that's what we should aspire for, is having inquire by our mentors what are their spiritual desires, and trying to serve that and trying to make that our spiritual desire. That's really what bhakti is, and with that will come empowerment for us to be able to do it. And again, you don't know it will happen on Krishna's timeline, not on our timeline. And that will help us to be more surrendered and reignite that love and relationship with Krishna. So, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a beautiful presentation and discussion. I've definitely experienced this in my life. I haven't necessarily received strong instruction, like I want you to do this, but there was like this service needs to be done, and I know it would be pleasing, so I did it, and that empowerment was definitely there. I feel like there's such a balance required, though. I think of Srila Prabhupada when he got the instruction to preach in the West versus when it manifested. There was decades between. He took care of his family first. He went to Vrindavan, got himself, he made himself peaceful. He took the time to take care of his needs, and then he would go. And even when he was preaching, traveling the world, he would take time for himself to get massages. He would take time to just make sure that he has the energy, he has the, like, I mean, he could have gone through anything, and he did things way more than any of us, way more than I can, like never getting jet lagged, stuff like that. But he took space and time. I guess my point is, how can we find this balance? I'm thinking about in the early days of the movement, yes, devotees were so surrendered, and there were a lot of mistakes, like families, parents leaving their children in just like feeling unloved, or in gurukuls that weren't properly taking care of them, to go distribute books, which is what they thought was Srila Prabhupada's highest desire. And so there must be some balance, and this might be also why teachers are now telling us there's this place, this middle ground between what do you want to offer, and how does that fit into Srila Prabhupada's mission.
Right.
I was hoping maybe you can discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the main point is it's really personal, and it's for you to understand, right? So what I mean by that is, for example, like you never ask another devotee, like, how much prasadam should I take? Like, should I eat 2 chapatis or should I eat 4 chapatis, right? When you feel satisfied, all right, for me, like 4 chapatis is my limit, right? But for someone, maybe 2, maybe 6, maybe 8, right? So everyone is different, right? So similarly, like our capacity to serve, our capacity to surrender at the time is, where we are at, right? And so that's for you to know, and you can easily figure that out, right? You try to do X, like I can do this. Okay, maybe I can push a little bit more, right? And see where that just a little bit of push for that growth comes in, but not too pushy where you break down. You're like, I cannot do this, and it's just too much, right? So you don't want to be like at the point where there's just like you can get complacent, but you don't want to get at the point where it's just like so hard that you're like, Krishna, I cannot do this anymore, right? And so that's something that, again, like one, checking for yourself, talking to your mentors, and then you can kind of find that balance, what you're talking about. So that's I think that's the key. The other thing is, I have seen this in my own personal life, is the spiritual energy and the spiritual strength is so much stronger than the material strength and material power. And again, we cannot try to like copy the wonderful devotees, a pure devotee of the Lord like Srila Prabhupada. But when we try to serve and be like, Krishna, today this is where I'm at. However, I would like to be able to serve more, but my body is just limited in this way. Please give me the strength to do it. This is really what I desire. And if the desire is really sincere, and you're actually actively trying to pursue it, Krishna will give the spiritual energy to be able to, then go to that next step, and then go to that next step to be able to do more. So that's two. And then the third thing is there will be times where your life circumstances will allow you to do, a certain amount. Like let's say I have a desire to go outside of America and preach, right? I have two kids and wife, so like my most important service right now is to serve my family, right? And so if I neglect that and then go, is that pleasing to Krishna? Is that pleasing to Srila Prabhupada? Right? It's not at all, right? And so what I can do is I can have that, and as you were saying, like Srila Prabhupada had that mood and he prepared himself, right? He wrote Bhagavad Gita. Then before even he came to America, he translated the couple cantos of Bhagavatam. So all the things, like he tried to establish things in India. When he was traveling in India, he went to Jhansi and tried to establish the League of Devotees over there. So you continue to try in your capacity and abilities that you have, with that desire always staying in the heart, that this is what I really want to do for you, Krishna. When please help me that that time and circumstance comes that where I'm able to do that, right? And then just again continue to like water that seed every day, and then it will manifest. Like I guarantee you, it will manifest, as long as you continue water and the desire is sincere.
I think we're basically out of time, but did you have a plan? I thought maybe I oh. Then I think we probably need to end now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the discussion.
You're welcome.